So welcome to part 2 of building some miniature model displays. If you check out part 1, I actually ended up by building this big revolve piece, and I'm going to put it onto a electronic turntable, which is going to allow it to spin, which is going to also allow me to have 3 separate displays in the one setting. I'm doing this because I've got an abundance of the Micro Galaxy Squadron toys, and I want to kind of do some additional displays. And I'm running out of space, so I figured if I can make one shelf space become 3 different settings, and by dividing it, I figured, hey, let me give it a try, see what happens. So with that being said, I'm going to get my foam core pieces. I'm going to match these sizes out onto this and mark them up and cut them all out. Now you may have a different size space to work with. And at that point, just go with whatever space you have. Obviously, figure out your diameter. Make sure you give yourself some room on the sides that when it turns, it doesn't quite hug the wall. You don't want it to hit the edges of your wall. So I've left a center point here. It's imperative that the center point is key to making sure that it's evenly spaced. From that point, I'm going to draw out my first line, and you can pick any random direction as long as you're starting from the center and you work your way forward. 360 degrees divided by 3, which is 120 degrees. So after some trial and error, I've cut this little piece out at 120 degrees. I'm going with my original straight line. I'm marking it in here. It follows this line here. I flip it over. It follows that line, and then to make sure the third part fits evenly, I've got a nice divided line between all 3 of them here, which means that I've found my central points, and I'm going to go with those as my markers. So I pulled out my hot glue gun. I figured this is probably the quickest and easiest way. It'll hold its weight. I don't have to worry about too much about, dry time, that sort of stuff. So I'm going to hot glue along the edge of the foam core, just very carefully. I don't want to have too much excess glue, but in this case, I'm doing all organic grounds for the most part. So I can actually, I'm going to be hiding a lot of this. So if I go along the very edge there, so then I'm just going to line this up to my first line, which is right here. Make sure it all lines up evenly. And to make sure it's actually square, I'm using the little square here to help keep it level and lined up. I'll apply a little bit of pressure and let it set. I can also scrape off the excess glue a little bit later once it dries. So that's the first one. And the second one, same thing. And again, applying a bit of pressure. And then making sure the third one's going to fit in here nice. And I apply the third piece. Right in place, right there, making sure once again that it's sitting nice and square. And you can see how rigid the black foam core is. It's a much more dense foam core. You could use white, you can use whatever foam core. I just decided to go with black because I want to have a nice divider between it when it's spun around, so it has a separation. I might even put a strip of something down here later on, just to separate the 3 of them. But I've got all 3 of them in there now, nicely divided up and ready to spin. And now my next stage is I'm going to start figuring out how and what I want to do to add as part of the displays, and try to put that all together and make it all fit. The next part is picking the scene I want to do, and this first scene I'm going to be doing in part 3 is going to be my Endor scene, where I have ended up by printing out some background images. I went online, had a look and saw some imagery, high quality resolution imagery of just a background forest, because no matter what, you're going to want to have some sort of a backing here to display and everything against. I do want to put some foreground trees. I'm going to have some of the displays of the AT-AT walker in front of it from Endor, and some AT-ST walkers and speeder bikes and Ewoks hanging off gliders. And I want to have a complete Forest Moon of Endor vibe to the whole thing. But for that to happen, I still need that background first. So I'm starting with the background, find the images that I wanted to get, scale them up in Photoshop, and then basically just print them out. And as I've printed them out, my next step here is to take the pieces that I've got, which is these here. I've got a relatively large printer, so I can print up to 13 inches by, well, as long as the paper wants to be, really. So I set my adjustment and my settings for all that. So in this particular case, I've got 3 individual parts of Endor, and I've matted them together. I've actually printed them with an overlap, so it allows me to join them together. So at this stage, my goal here is just to cut out the edges and then spray glue them together on the whole. So that is the first image piece cut. I'm going to stand it up right there. Now eventually I'm going to cut around this shape here on the middle piece. I'm going to curve it so I have very little actual solid 90-degree shape here. I want it to feel like this endless kind of background. And then I'm going to build up some rock and foliage and stuff like that right here to help hide this area. And then in the foreground is going to be my walkers and the whole Battle of Endor kind of sequence going on right there. If I've got space, I might actually build myself part of the Imperial bunker as a background piece. I know technically the AT-AT walker wasn't directly involved at the bunker, but at the same time, it just is a representation of the pieces of the toys that I've collected that I kind of want to display in a setting itself. And it feels like the bunker would be a really cool setting, only because I can set up the entire forest fight sequence. Micro Galaxy built all these little tiny Ewoks and Ewok gliders and speeder bikes, and I picked up the AT-ST Return of the Jedi Endor set recently, and that is also kind of a really cool thing that I've want to kind of put up on display too. Eventually I'm going to spray glue these guys together and marry them in together as one big piece. And again, just cutting the pieces out individually first and prepping them. So the next step I want to do here is spray glue these on here. I want to be kind of really careful. Obviously I should be doing this outside. For this I've just got a quick mask. I don't need to do a lot of spraying, so I'm just going to do this very quick here for demonstration. But I will take these out to finish doing them outside. I'm going to spray them together, mount them, let them set, and then I'm going to trim off the edges around it and fit them to size within the setting I'm doing here. So first I'm going to get this mask on. I kind of want to line up the images here, make sure I've got them matching over. I've got a little bit left for an overlap. I'm going to put a piece of foam core right here on the edge. I'm going to move it out. So this is how much here I've got as an overlap. I'm going to do a quick little spray. That's the one. And then I'm going to turn this piece upside down, and I'm also going to spray that one edge there. So I can now flip this over, mount it up against here, line it up, and get that section there joined together. So I've got that whole piece joined. And then I just want to do the exact same thing with the last one here. I'm going to prep where I need to overlap it. Looks like I need to overlap it about and just with care, I'm just lining it up so I can get my imagery lined up with itself, and pat it down. So now I've got a nice big background that I'm going to be able to wrap around as my background. I've got a nice big background here. I'm going to be able to wrap around. I still need to trim it and cut it, but that'll be the next step. Alright, so now that I got this actually together, I need to actually first put and mount this in here. I need to do some line work and figure out where this goes. I want this continual seam in the background here, but I do need to cut around this shape here. And I'm going to actually get myself lined up, put it in there, and I'm going to get myself some pencil marks of where I need to cut this, right here and right here. And that means I know where to cut it straight up and across. I'll put this up. So I have to mark up, I come up 1 3/4 inches in here, and that's exactly what I have to do for my pencil marks here. Draw a line up at 1 3/4 inches. Same thing on that line. And then draw myself a straight line across. And although you can't see it here, that's the piece I'm about to cut out. So we've got that piece cut out now. I can lay these in here, line them up, and know that the forest is going to set up in here. And just got to trim across the top there. I am going to actually mount a piece of cardboard foam core in here, because where the curve is, you can't see it here, but at the top I need to actually put something in there to help fill the space, because otherwise I've got a very weak center there. So I'm going to cut those out next and go from here. So I've held this in place, and what I've done is I've marked up some pieces that can fit into the top, something in the middle and something from the side, just to help support the middle of this before I glue it in. So I just lightly glue taped it in place to hold it there. A little bit of hot glue, just going to dab it on the bottom. For the one on the ground, it's going to go right there. One in the middle, just going to glue it into the back edge of that. It's going to go right here. And it's just adding additional support for the curvature. And then I'm going to do the one at the top, which will also allow me to bind the piece together much easier. So now I can take this outside, quickly spray glue it, and mount this piece into it from there. I'll bring it. So you can see here that this is all mounted in here now. I've got the support on the back that helps give a bit more strength to this on this curvature. And then I'm going to be able to build up some underbrush in the background here and brush in the foreground along with the ground row. And yeah, this is what that's going to feel like when the AT-AT Walker is in there. I might actually do like again, you know, probably a small build up and display around here, even in the center of the bunker, since the bunker actually would sit kind of on a shape like this. So I might mount the bunker over the top of my middle shape here, put a couple of ATSTs, definitely a few trees in the foreground here with a bit of foliage, because I want to hang Ewoks on gliders. I've got a couple of those guys there and a few speeder bikes going through. I think it's going to be a cool little setup for my little miniature Endor, based around the Micro Galaxy series. So cool, awesome.